The rain hammered the windows of the old community center like it was trying to break in, but inside the small therapy room, the world felt quieter, warmer, almost sacred. Dim overhead lights buzzed faintly above the padded mat where 17-year-old Elena Whitaker lay on her back, legs useless since the accident 11 years earlier that stole her ability to walk. Her mother, Victoria Whitaker, the billionaire whose name was on half the skyscrapers in the city, sat rigid in a folding chair against the wall, arms crossed so tightly her knuckles blanched white. She had paid for every specialist, every experimental treatment, every private jet to Switzerland and Singapore. Nothing had worked. Tonight was supposed to be another last-ditch session, another disappointment dressed up as hope. Across the mat stood Marcus Hayes, 34, broad-shouldered, calloused hands still faintly stained with engine grease despite the thorough scrubbing he'd given them before coming here. He wore faded jeans and a plain black t-shirt that read Hayes Auto Repair in peeling letters across the chest. His 8-year-old daughter, Zoe, sat cross-legged in the corner, quietly coloring a picture of a bright red car because Marcus had promised her ice cream if she stayed patient. Everyone else, the physical therapists, the neurologists, had long since given up calling this progress. But Marcus had never been one for giving up when someone needed him. He crouched beside Elena, voice low and steady, the way he talked to Zoe when nightmares woke her at 3 a.m. "You remember what I told you last week?" Elena's eyes, huge and dark in her pale face, flicked to him. She nodded once. Her voice was small. "You said, the body remembers things the doctors don't listen to." "That's right." Marcus placed one large hand gently on her ankle, not pulling, not forcing, just resting there like an anchor. "Your legs remember dancing. They remember running through sprinklers. They remember the way the ground felt when you jumped off the porch swing. All we gotta do is remind them." Victoria made a sharp sound in her throat, somewhere between scoff and sob. "Mr. Hayes, with respect, we've tried visualization, we've tried electrical stimulation, we've tried." "I know what you've tried, ma'am." Marcus didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on Elena. "I'm not a doctor. I'm a mechanic. When something's stuck, sometimes you don't force it. You listen to it first. Then you coax it loose." Elena's breath hitched. She had heard versions of this before, hopeful speeches that ended in silence. But Marcus had been different from the first day he showed up. He hadn't come with a resume or a treatment plan. He'd come because Zoe's school had a community service day, and Marcus volunteered to fix the center's broken van for free. While he was under the hood, Elena's wheelchair had rolled past the open garage door. She'd stopped. Watched him work. Asked, quietly, if he ever fixed people. He'd laughed softly and said, "Only the ones who still believe they can be fixed." That was 3 months ago. Since then, he'd come every Tuesday and Thursday after closing the shop, bringing Zoe along. He never asked for money. Never asked for thanks. He just showed up. Tonight, though, felt heavier. Elena's latest scans had come back worse, nerve degradation accelerating. The doctors had used the word permanent like a door slamming shut. Victoria had cried in her office for an hour before steeling herself to bring her daughter here one more time. She told herself it was closure. Marcus lifted Elena's right foot slowly, cradling the heel in his palm. "We're gonna start small. Like always. Just breathe with me, okay? In, out, good." Elena closed her eyes. Her chest rose and fell in rhythm with his counting. "Think about Zoe's favorite song," he murmured. "The one she makes me play on repeat in the truck. That little bounce she does in her car seat when the chorus hits. Imagine your toes tapping that beat." A ghost of a smile touched Elena's lips. Zoe looked up from her coloring book, eyes wide. Marcus kept talking, voice a low rumble. "Now imagine the beat moving up your ankle, slow, like warm oil working through rusty gears. No rush. Just loosening. Just remembering." Minutes passed. The rain outside softened to a steady patter. Victoria's arms loosened slightly, though her face remained a mask. Then Elena whispered, "It tingles." Marcus's hand stilled. "Where?" "Behind my knee. Like pins. Not bad pins. Just awake." Victoria leaned forward so fast the chair scraped. Elena. Sho, Marcus said gently, not to silence her but to keep the moment from shattering. Let it talk. He guided Elena's leg in the tiniest circle, barely an inch. Follow the feeling. Chase it. Tell it you're listening. Elena's brow furrowed in concentration. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Her left hand gripped the mat. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, impossibly, her right big toe moved. Just a twitch. But it moved. Zoe gasped. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. Elena opened her eyes, staring down at her foot like it belonged to someone else. Did you see? I saw, Marcus said, voice thick. He didn't smile yet. He waited. Do it again, Elena breathed. Marcus adjusted his grip, lighter now. You do it. I'm just here to catch you if you fall. Elena's face tightened with effort. Her breath came in short bursts. The room was so quiet they could hear the clock on the wall ticking. 1 heartbeat. 2. Her big toe lifted half an inch. Then curled back down. Then the second toe. Then the third. A sob ripped out of Victoria, raw and broken. She slid off the chair to her knees beside the mat, hands hovering, afraid to touch, afraid it wasn't real. Elena kept going. The movement was small, shaky, nothing like the confident stride she once had. But it was hers. Voluntary. Alive. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I can feel it. I can feel my foot. Mom, I can feel it. Victoria reached out then, trembling fingers wrapping around her daughter's hand. Baby, oh God, baby. Marcus stayed crouched, steady, one hand still supporting Elena's ankle. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His own eyes were wet, but he blinked it back because this wasn't about him. Zoe crept closer, clutching her crayon drawing. Does this mean Elena can come to the park with us now? And push me on the swing? Elena laughed through tears. A bright, startled sound that hadn't been heard in years. I think, maybe soon. Victoria turned to Marcus, mascara running in black tracks down her face. She tried to speak, couldn't. Tried again. How did you? He shook his head slowly. I didn't. She did. I just reminded her she still could. Elena's foot moved again, bigger this time, a real flex of the arch. She cried out in startled joy. Victoria broke completely then. She folded forward, forehead resting on her daughter's knee, shoulders shaking with sobs that came from somewhere deep and long buried. Years of guilt, of helplessness, of boardrooms and private planes, and still not being able to give her child the one thing she wanted most, it all poured out in heaving waves. Marcus finally eased back, giving them space. He looked over at Zoe, who was crying too, quietly, happily. He opened his arms and she ran into them, burying her face in his shirt. Elena reached down, fingers threading through her mother's hair. Mom, it's okay. I'm still here. We're still here. Victoria lifted her head, face wrecked and radiant at once. She looked at Marcus over her daughter's legs, still weak, still uncertain, but moving, and whispered the only words she could manage. Thank you. Marcus gave the smallest nod. She did the hard part. Outside, the rain stopped. A sliver of moonlight slipped through the blinds, catching on Elena's trembling toes as they curled once more, deliberate, defiant. In that small, ordinary room, under flickering lights and the scent of old gym mats, a miracle unfolded, not with money, not with machines, but with patience, belief, and a single dad who refused to let someone else's child stay broken when he knew, deep in his bones, that broken things could be mended if you loved them long enough. Victoria stayed on her knees a long time, holding her daughter's hand, watching those tiny movements like they were the most precious thing in the world. Because they were. And Marcus Hayes simply sat back on his heels, arms around his own little girl, letting the moment breathe.